accelerate their company's growth. I'd like to welcome you to this introduction to Vistage. This event will show you how a highly dynamic Greater Boston peer advisory group and an award-winning executive coach can assist you and your organization in growing. How, you may be thinking? By helping you step out of your day-to-day tasks to work on your business rather than in it. By asking you questions no one else is asking you and exposing you to ideas you've never even considered before. Plus, by testing your preconceptions, assisting you in identifying your blind spots and pushing you way beyond your comfort zone, much like a highly skilled fitness coach would. Over the years, I have found that CEOs and business owners face unique challenges. They're frustrated that they're stuck in the weeds. They're concerned that no one is pushing them to grow professionally or personally. And they are worried that they are isolated and they want outside perspectives to bring themselves and their business to the next level. Over the next 40 minutes or so, you'll have the opportunity to learn from a world-class speaker, AmyK Hutchins, about how to navigate tough conversations. Did you know that 80% of executives resist leading a conversation that they dread? 1 in 10 executives admit to avoiding a conversation for more than 2 years. Even just one conversation that challenges current thinking can create a path for higher performing, more innovative, and empathetic teams. AmyK will share some of these great insights in just a few moments. You will also have an opportunity to hear from 5 members in my peer advisory group who will share in their own words the impact of Vistage on their leadership, both professionally and personally. They will answer questions like, why did you choose to carve out time in your busy schedule to join Vistage? What are the things you most value about being a part of this group? How would you describe the culture of this group? How would you describe the group meetings? What are the biggest benefits for your one-to-one meetings with your coach? Plus, the members will also share a personal message to you as a potential member. You're in for a real treat. Thank you for joining us in this exploratory journey. Hi, AmyK. How are you today?
I'm good. I have a little bit of a DJ voice because I'm just recovering from a cold. But other than that, I'm excellent. So thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and we appreciate you being here today.
Thanks so much.
So I'd like to start by just telling the audience a little bit more about you. AmyK Hutchins is a master communicator, a best-selling author, an international award-winning keynote speaker for the world's leading CEO membership organization, Vistage. As a former executive of a billion-dollar global consumer products company and being awarded the Vistage UK International Speaker of the Year Award, AmyK has had the privilege of partnering with thousands of executives in 10 plus countries, that's impressive, on how best to grow and scale their companies, moving forward faster. AmyK served as Senior Executive Vice President, Operations for one of the world's largest marketing firms in the US. She was a chosen member of the National Geographic's Educator Advisory Committee and now serves as the founder and intelligence activist of AmyK International, an executive development firm focused on the power of profitable conversations. AmyK received her MS from Johns Hopkins University. Her client list includes the Home Depot, AT&T, Bridgeton, Starbucks Canada, Expedia, Lockheed Martin, Wells Fargo, Walmart, Dematic, Digitech Systems, and hundreds more. She has been featured on Bloomberg, NBC, ABC, USA Today, Entrepreneur, and USA News and World Reports. That's impressive. Good for you, AmyK.
I love what I do. I love it.
So one of the things I just wanted to chat with you first about is I know you've done over 2,600 presentations with Vistage alone. Yeah. Can you talk about what that experience was like?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of being both a speaker, and I'm still a speaker for Vistage, and I was a member for 8 years. And so I sat in the seat of the Vistage member and I loved it. And I think you'll understand what I say, that I'm genuine when I say this, because I've been a speaker for them for 22 years. The speakers were always nice to have, but it was the diversity of thinking in the group that made me show up every single month. I loved the executive session. I loved the issue processing. I'm intellectually curious. I loved hearing other people's perspectives. And I joke, Nancy, that every now and then you'd walk in and you're like, well, I have an issue. But then you'd hear somebody else's issue and you're like, oh my God, that's 10 times more valuable than even what I'm working on. So I loved it. It was just an incredible time in my life.
And it's nice when there's that cross-pollination of different industries and just learning from different people's journeys, right? And that
absolutely.
melting pot of collective wisdom is really priceless.
Yeah, everybody's unique fingerprint type experience would make the problem solving, to me, just so much more high level, just so much more effective.
Yeah. Yeah, very much true. Thank you. You know, it's interesting. I was looking through your LinkedIn profile, and one of there was a quote, if you will, that you had said, and I really wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about that, which is life happens one conversation at a time.
It does. So I joke that I was given this voice box, and even though it's a little croaky today, I was born with it, but it didn't come with instructions. And it was so, like, I'm a speaker for a living. I'm a professional speaker. I'm a master communicator. And yet you can still go out online and use the internet, and you're going to find public speaking. You're going to find presentation decks. What's harder to find is how do I have a conversation with a spouse, with a family member, with a friend? How do I have a conversation with an executive that's not really showing up super motivated and engaged? How do I have some of those tough conversations when I need to turn a department around, or when we've done a merger or an acquisition and we're having culture warfare? And to me, that's the harder conversation. And yet I really believe that if you can slow down long enough to say, okay, the quality of my life is a reflection of the quality of my conversations, then you show up for those critical conversations prepared, ready to go, thoughtful, and more empathic.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, when I talk with my clients and members, a lot of it is around communications and the disruption that goes on when that interpersonal dynamics, and people have different levels of sophistication in their communication skills, whether it's the active listening or their body language, or, you know, just the vibe that they're giving off sometimes is different than how it's perceived.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I think that's, you know, it used to be woo-woo 30 years ago when I talked about it. And that is, you know, leading with empathy. And, you know, everybody was like, oh, I don't know, AmyK, that sounds pretty woo-woo. And now today it's like, it's a must. If you don't do it, you're not going to lead anybody anywhere. And it's interesting, Nancy, because you pointed it out, whether it's a financial conversation, an operational one, a cultural one, a strategic one, all those aspects of business come down to fundamentally, how well are you communicating with your people?
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's very true. You know, I know that you're a teacher through and through. Can you share some thoughts around how that passion was weaved through guiding you through your life?
You know, it's funny. If you had asked me when I was 20 years old in an elementary school classroom, because I was an elementary school teacher, like, you know, do you see yourself as like this global speaker someday? I would have been like, of course not. But that's a thread that's very much woven through my entire career. So I was an elementary school teacher, and then a teacher trainer. And then I was a part of the international school system. And then I was a sales corporate trainer. And then I started my own training company. And then I became a speaker, a coach, a consultant. And now we do all this online stuff. We founded the global platform, She Gets It, to teach women leaders how to communicate. And so all of it is, I'm still a teacher. So I joke now that yes, and it feels really good to go into a stadium and have thousands of people, but I still feel like I'm teaching elementary school.
That's nice. So, you know, when we think about communications and relationships and collaboration, at the core of all of it is trust.
Yeah.
Can you share your thoughts around how trust boosts engagement and collaboration and relationships, personally and professionally?
Yeah, and I kind of take a controversial stance on this. So I think that, first of all, we can all agree that trust is really important. Like, nobody's going to disagree that trust isn't one of those, you know, character traits or attributes that we're going to put on some chart, you know, on our values in the workroom. But here's the crazy way that most businesses define it. And even if you look in a dictionary, it's going to say, trust is consistency of behavior. So Nancy, I can teach you on this because you can handle this. If you're a jerk, I'm going to trust you to be a jerk. And so it's like, you were a jerk last week. You were a jerk yesterday. You were a jerk this morning. No, I trust Nancy, only I trust her to be a jerk. Now let's flip it. Nancy, you're lovely. You've been lovely the whole time that I've known you. In fact, Nancy, for those of you who are watching this, Nancy and I even had to reschedule this because I literally had no voice 3 days ago. And Nancy's been awesome. So Nancy was lovely a week ago, 3 days ago, this morning. So I trust Nancy to be lovely. So the definition of trust based on consistency of behavior only works when it's positive. So it's just a really bad and incomplete definition. So I often challenge leaders when you're looking at the dynamics of your team and you're looking for trust, I'll ask 3 questions. How safe is it to ask for help?
Good point.
How safe is it to offer dissent or a differing opinion? How safe is it to let go of a former transgression or misstep by somebody else? In other words, is it safe for me to go, Nancy, hey, Nancy, you're awesome at X, and I don't know very much about X, and it's safe for me to be vulnerable with you. It's safe for me to not have to pretend to know something that I don't, or that I have it all together. I can't look vulnerable in front of everybody. That means there's no trust. If I can bring up an opinion and we can talk about it and have a robust dialogue, and we're not going to get factions in the company of like, oh, it's Nancy versus AmyK, but instead it's decision A versus decision B, right? And then let's say you did say that my mama wears combat boots last week. Do I know that that's not your pattern? Do I know that that was generally a one-off and that we're all trying to play better? And so it's safe for me to let that go so that I can be unguarded again with you and we can get back to a vulnerable state. And those are the 3 factors that I think are most critical to saying, do we really have trust in our culture?
So how would somebody who maybe hasn't been showing up as the best version of themselves, so there may be some trust challenges, how does one change those behaviors to, show up in a more favorable way when they're known as maybe being not so favorable to interact with?
Well, the first is, I think you have to have a tough conversation, and that is you have to own it. So tough, again, life happens one conversation at a time, and the life that you desire, just going to say this, the life that you desire is on the other side of a tough conversation. So if you're the one that's been trespassing and you're trying to play better, I would encourage you to go have that vulnerable conversation and say to somebody like, hey, you know what, Nancy, I own that I've been difficult, or I own that I have misstepped. I am committed to playing better. And here's what I'm promising that I'm doing. I'm going to consciously choose to play better. And here's what I'm doing. I'm on a daily basis saying, am I playing better? And I'm asking myself twice a day, am I showing up playing better? You may catch me not playing better, and you have permission to point it out. Please point it out graciously, because I'm trying, but I am working on it. And that is a vulnerable conversation to have. But notice I didn't get all woo-woo. I just said, I own it. I'm working on it. You're allowed to call me on it politely, please. And just know that I'm committed to doing it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love what you said about, just having that conversation. So, because I've seen many people who have tried to change, never had that vulnerable conversation like, I know I haven't been doing so great here. I'm working on it. And, I think when people know that, they're more open-minded and willing to accept that, right? Go ahead. Looks like you have a thought on that.
No, you nailed it. That's all I was going to say, is that you nailed it. And here's the difference. When you don't announce it and you do play better, what happens is you've played better, let's just say for a week, and then you misstep again, right? Because it's a habit you're trying to change.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you misstep and nobody knows that you've been trying, they're just like, there AmyK goes again. She's a pain in the ass, And so what's great is when you get people cheerleading for you and aware that you're trying to change your behavior, then they'll notice that you did go for 4 days. Like, they're more observant. So you're setting everybody up for success by saying, I'm working on this.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really important, because you don't just go like this and all of a sudden, because you want to change. It's a bumpy road along the process, and you're going to fall back and you're going to make some of those same mistakes, but you have to keep being persistent to get to that higher level of success.
Yeah, and I think you've also shared what I call a practice. It's just a practice. Everything's a practice. Being in a relationship, raising your children, running a business, leadership, self-leadership. It's all a practice. And now we're just communicating for people that we're trying to be in a better practice.
Yeah. And those tough conversations are uncomfortable. And there's many tough conversations that we need to be having. I think all of us can think about, there's a couple conversations I should be having, but I'm maybe delaying those. And sometimes we intentionally don't ever have those conversations. So can you talk a little bit about the tough conversation space for you and how you talk about that in your educational opportunities with Vistage or other people?
Yeah, well, let's start with facts because I'm a nerd. I can talk facts in the brain all day long, but let's talk facts for a second. The average cost of an avoided conversation is anywhere from $7,500 to $10,500. That's like what research shows. You avoid that conversation, the cost of that, $7,500 to $10,500. The second cool fact, not cool, but I find it fascinating, is that on average, most tough conversations are avoided from 6 months to 2 years. Now, just hold that for a second. You think about all the conversations that you're avoiding, the cost of all those conversations, and you're like, and here's the crazy thing. I bet everybody who's listening can relate to this. Once you have the tough conversation, it's like you finally breathe this sigh of relief. Your shoulders relax. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that's over. And I think that one of the reasons that we avoid them is we don't know how to start them. And we're always afraid that if we're not really prepared, they're going to go worse than we even imagine. And so I always tell people, I want you to rehearse for it like it's a play performance. Like you're going to go sit in front of a camera and some director is going to be like, do you know your lines? And it's not about being scripted all the way through, but it's about having a few back pocket brilliant one-liners that can course correct. Yeah. It's about having the framing, the overarching question that you're trying to answer. And then it's the idea of, am I showing up? And I call it it's a famous quote. I don't take credit for it, but I call it the soft front, hard back. Meaning I'm going to lead with empathy and connection, and I'm also going to have a firm boundary and expectation. So what most of us do in a tough conversation is we show up and we're all blustery and tough and rough. And then when, somebody pushes against us, we cave because we have a soft spine. I think the opposite. Show up with connection, show up with empathy, and have a hard spine to say, and I still have these expectations. I still have these boundaries, but I'm leading with connection first.
And how do you do that? When you think about empathy and that tough conversation, they almost seem opposite, right? Tough just seems like, and empathy it's the softer side of it, right? So how do you balance that?
So I'm a big believer of something, we all know the buzzword empathy, but if you look behind empathy, you have to have something called an empathic intelligence. And what that means is I'm willing to show up and respond to you with sensitive, perceptive communication. So I don't know about you, Nancy, but have you ever talked to somebody and you feel like you're beating your head against the wall? You're like, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. Yeah. You want to be that leader who's perceptive, who's sensitive. And so I'm a queen of magical phrases, but one of them is just trying to understand somebody's emotional state and your willingness to be wrong. So I'll say to you, Nancy, you seem angry today. Like, am I hearing you correctly? Are you angry? And you would respond with what?
No, I'm not. I'm right. Sorry if I'm showing up that way.
Right. So you're correcting me already. So it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. Now we try to get closer to it. So I could say, hey, Nancy, you seem pretty content and relaxed today. Am I reading you correctly? Are you pretty content and relaxed?
No, actually inside I'm spiraling out of control. No, I don't know what I would say.
Okay, but here's what's great. Somebody's either going to say, yes, that's it exactly, and they'll feel seen, heard, and understood. Or if you're completely wrong, they're going to correct you like you just did to me. But here's the beauty of it. The minute that you're corrected, you know exactly what that person's feeling like.
Yeah.
And so I can then respond to you, okay, Nancy, I didn't know that you were spiraling on the inside. Tell me more. Help me understand. And all of a sudden you feel seen, heard, and understood. It's like, okay, AmyK is really listening to me. Now, from there, I can work with you to say, okay, you're feeling overwhelmed. Obviously, it's not helping you meet your goals. And these goals are legit, and we still have deadlines. So let's work on reducing your overwhelm and anxiety. So notice, I'm leaning in, I'm connecting, you feel understood, and we still have a hard spine. We still got stuff to do.
Yeah. Even with the difficult conversations, the other thing that was coming to mind for me, and I'm curious if you see the same thing, is oftentimes people have this, like, they don't want to do it because they have created this story in their head about how, like, horrible the situation is. And oftentimes I'm like, all right, so how likely is that to happen?
Right. Right.
And then
And
they're
it's
like,
not.
it's not. And do
It's
you
not.
see that often? Tell me a little bit more about what your experiences have been in that space.
Yeah, people avoid conversations for so many reasons, but part of it is going back to the two that I talked about. They don't know how to start it, and they're afraid in their mind that it's going to be this huge, awful thing. Here's what I know for a fact. Suppose it does spiral a little. You can face it. You can handle it. You can always take a deep breath and say, okay, this conversation is not going in the way that I wanted it to. We can either reset right here, right now, or we can take a break and we can come back and we can reset again tomorrow or next week, right? The other thing that I think that's important too is to remember that how you start the conversation is probably most important.
Yeah.
And so the very first words out of your mouth are going to set the entire tone and tenor of what follows. And so if you sit down and you say, this is a tough conversation that I've been avoiding because I really want to connect with you, and I know it's going to be tough and there might be some dicey moments, but this is really important for us, or it's really important to the client, or it's really important to the project, or it's really important to our team. Or if it's personal, it's really important to our family that this goes well. And I've been avoiding. Now notice what I've done is I've led with empathy and connection. I've been avoiding this. This is going to be a tough conversation and it matters. You matter to me. This relationship, our project, our culture, our company, whatever it is that it's about matters. And that's really an incredible message to start a tough conversation with.
Yeah. And it's interesting. What you just made me think about is I believe we're all leaders of our own life, personally and professionally. Sometimes we become a victim of our circumstances, and it's about recalibrating back into like being in that leadership stance. And I'm just curious about your thoughts on self-leadership. And I think people they don't realize, they don't have that awareness that, oh, I really am in control of my own life, even though a lot of things happen to me that are outside of my control. How I respond to those things is within my control. So can you talk a little bit about the self-leadership piece of it?
Yeah, well, it's everything. I mean, let's just say it's everything. So I think that's part of why I've morphed. So I do a lot of sales training. I do a lot of work with leaders, and I come back even in my sales trainings too. You cannot lead others well until you lead yourself well first. You have got to be in the practice of self-leadership. You have got to master your own mindset. And when I say master your own mindset, what I mean by that is you are in the practice every day of self-leadership. You're in the practice every day of self-reflection, of choosing to feed yourself something besides the noise and the nonsense that's going on in the world. And I think that for me, what that means is that you've got to look at your own gaps, your own sort of your strengths, play off of them, your own weaknesses, shore them up. But I often joke, not in a funny joke, but I often joke irreverently that when I've worked with leaders throughout the years, those leaders who focus on the bottom line, that final column, are we in the black? Are we in the red? Are we profitable? They never exceed the goal the way they want to. Those leaders who say, I'm trying to get to a number, but I'm constantly asking, who am I up to being to lead people into this goal? Who do I need to become to lead into this goal? They exceed their goals all day long.
Yeah. And that's interesting. It kind of brings to that, how do you master, like your mindset is really such a strong component of what your happiness, your joy, your successes, achieving your goals in any aspect of your life, right? So how does one, I don't know if you can ever master it, right? But how does one continue to evolve a more favorable, positive mindset versus the toxicity that's around us every day?
Well, I think part of it is kind of the analogy of, if you take a mama bird in a nest, she flies out, she brings the worm back, she feeds all the babies. She flies out, she comes back, she feeds all the babies. Like, who feeds mama? Mama has to feed mama. And I use that, male or female, who's feeding you is just a great question to ask. You've got to feed you. And so what small daily practices, what weekly practices, what monthly, what annual things do you do to fuel you up. And I'm a big believer. I know a lot of people think like if you master your time, like you master your life. I'm the opposite. If you master your energy, you master your life. And I think energy is the fundamental currency of high performers. I've always thought that. But who fuels you? So when I say fuel, I'm talking about energy from a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual level, irrespective of what you believe. Are you feeding yourself? So like small daily practices is I have small things I'll just share right here. I have this, I don't know if this will go in the camera, but like this is, my career is one of creating a joyful life experience. This is my weekly card that I choose. Well, this one is about, okay, so every time I hop on a coaching call, every time I get ready to do a keynote, I'm there to make a joyful life experience for everybody in the room, right? So that's how and that's just a small daily practice. Actually, that one's a weekly, but, and then what are you reading? What are you consuming? What's your diet? And I don't mean diet as in physical diet. I mean, what's the diet of the information that you're taking in? So the world has a lot of stuff going on and we need to be aware of it. We need to be educated. We absolutely need to be engaged and involved. And then we need to turn it off and ask, what are we feeding ourselves that's going to actually fuel me up and not drain me? And so I just think it's a practice. It's a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly practice of who am I up to becoming?
Yeah. And I think it speaks to kind of your thoughts become your words, become your actions, become your results, right?
Mm-hmm.
In all aspects of our life. And also when we're, people are watching how we're showing up. And if we're disgruntled or, not able to have difficult conversations when everybody around us knows that those conversations are being avoided, it speaks to our leadership or lack thereof in paying attention to things that need to be taken care of.
Yeah, and it's not about, let me be really clear. I'm not a Pollyanna. They're not every day's rainbows and unicorns, y'all. And go to your emoticons and find those unicorns and rainbows. You'll also find my poop emoji is right there, right? I think that where I come from though is realistic optimism. The idea that I have a choice. There's a lot of things, and Nancy, you said it beautifully. There's a lot of things that I have no control over. But I have a lot of things that I do have control over, and they all rest right here.
Yeah, that's so true. I really appreciate that. So, AmyK, if somebody is interested in talking with you further or engaging your services, what's the best way? Like, what would that look like, number one? And number two, how would they best get a hold of you?
Thanks for asking. Yeah. So we have things that I get super passionate about. So if you go to AmyK.com, super easy, AmYK.com, you'll see that I coach, I give keynotes, I do training. If you go to SheGetsIt.com, you'll see that we do all kinds of online programs for women leaders and women sales leaders specifically. So we have our masterminds that we run. They're 6-week programs. We have our sales leadership for Iconics. And by the way, we have tons of free resources. So if you join our community, I'm giving free content every week. You get a ton of free tools. Generosity is just really important to me. So yeah, join our community. And, every week I will be irreverently in your inbox sharing something.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I wanted to just ask one last question. If there was one thing that you wanted people to take away from this time that we've had together, what would that be?
Have the conversation. If it's worth having, have the conversation, because the life that you want, it's on the other side of it.
Excellent. Nice closing words. Amy, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to our next interaction.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure.
Well, Nancy, I do have a busy schedule, and I chose to carve out time because as a new CEO in Boston, having been a former CEO in another organization, it's lonely at the top, and you really need somebody that you can confide in and talk to. And having Nancy as a mentor has been very, very helpful to me because she holds me accountable in ways that my board doesn't and is able to help me get to the nitty-gritty of problems. And then my group has been excellent in providing a diverse background of people from different industries, as well as varied life experiences that help us to come together and talk about the issues that we're facing as leaders and what that means to us, and then to problem solve any issues that we might have. And even though we have similar issues, because we're from different industries, we have different viewpoints on that. And it's been very helpful to me to be able to solve the problems that I have here in my non-for-profit organization.
So I joined Vistage primarily to get accountability from other business owners and to help with getting perspective on the issues that we all face in our day-to-day lives. And being the solo owner of a business myself, I don't have that internal accountability. So Vistage has really helped provide that.
When you have C in front of your title, chief of something, you're basically the only one in your company. And that automatically puts you in a position where there's nobody else who is doing your job that you can talk to about your job. If you're the CEO, you're basically over all of that. And you really are the only one. And it is one of the loneliest positions that you could be in. And I realized I needed peers to talk to. And I wanted to take the time to do that and see if it would help me be a better CEO.
As a recently appointed president, I was looking for a confidential outlet. Vistage provided me with a peer group and one-on-one coaching. It allows me to have that confidential outlet while obtaining diverse perspectives on the various challenges that I knew I'd be facing.
The things I most value about being part of this group is related to the comfortable setting with peers that are in different industries, but in similar phases of their life and their journey as professionals, and being able to have candid conversations outside of a work setting to get new perspectives on how to approach business challenges.
The things I value most about this group is the camaraderie that we've developed, the feeling that no one has a hidden agenda, and the fact that we are able to learn as well from the different speakers that Vistage offers at the different group sessions that we have each month.
I value all the people who are in the group. It's really sort of interesting. And whenever somebody can attend, I feel it personally that person's not there with their insights and their experience. One of the things that you find in the group when you're in a group like this is that what you think are your problems, all the things that you're addressing in your company, there are other people who are dealing with very similar, if not identical problems in a different environment, in a different industry. And having that group of people there who get to know you over time, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, they can help you address those issues that you're struggling with, and they can help you celebrate the things that are going well for you. And that allows you to be more responsive, to bring your best self to the company, and to air some of your stuff in a place that's a safe place to do, and then come back with a better solution and a fresh head and a clear mind about things.
Each meeting, I walk away with new ideas that I can take back to my team and organization. I also walk away knowing that I'm not alone. The president role can be somewhat lonely at times, and it's really helpful to have a supportive peer group and coach.
I would say the one thing I value most about being part of this Vistage group is the different perspectives that each of the people has. And different businesses, different industries, different personalities, they come at issues from varying perspectives. And it's really helpful to me to hear what they think on these topics as I try to incorporate that into my business.
How I would describe the culture in our group is, at its core, it starts with a culture of trust that is uplifting, positive, candid, and inclusive. I always feel safe, and I feel that I'm getting great feedback in a way that's constructive, but also candid. And that's extremely valuable and hard to achieve.
I would describe the culture of the group as I find it relaxing in a way, since a lot of our days are stressful back-to-back days. with meetings, and being together with this group is respectful. They're confident. They help me to solve problems as well as provide confidentiality so that I know that what I'm saying isn't going to be leaked out to any place. And we're able to therefore solve some very difficult problems that many of us have, including our own personal problems. And it doesn't just have to be related to business, and that's been extremely helpful.
I think our group culture is, not to be repeated, but senior executives with very diverse backgrounds and sort of a mutual trust and respect of each other's opinions and a willingness to be vulnerable with those opinions and open discussions. I would say that's probably the best way I could describe the culture.
So the culture of the group, and one of the things that I really appreciate is that people, we all respect each other. We wouldn't be in these positions if somehow we weren't driven to be in these positions, and if we didn't have a desire to create something ourselves or to manage something to a better place or to create opportunities for other people. So we all come into that room with respect for each other at the beginning. And then as we're interacting, I think that respect has just grown over time. And I think that we all recognize that we need a space in which we can exchange information confidentially. I feel like I get really good advice from people. And sometimes I think I have a direction and I listen to it and I come back with a different direction. Sometimes I hear somebody else's issues or what they're struggling with, and I think one thing and somebody else thinks another, and you start exchanging ideas and we all learn from that process. And so I think that open culture, the respect for each other, the acknowledgement that the respect for each other that actually increases over time in some way, because we get to know each other and we get to know how we deal with things, and we learn not only what's similar, but what's different about our industries. And that kind of expands all of our experience. So all of those things for the culture are really enjoyable. And we, get to know each other personally, and we get to know each other professionally.
It's really a group of selfless individuals with diverse backgrounds. A couple of words I'd use to describe the culture is selfless. The group of individuals that we have in our group, they truly want others to succeed, and they share their knowledge, their experience, and honest opinion with me and with the others in the group. It's confidential. It's a safe space to share experiences, challenges, and ideas, which will help the other members grow and learn, as well as help myself grow and learn.
I would describe the group meetings as time well spent. So first of all, there's always an agenda. Nancy does a great job by putting out, it's like a placemat, so we know what's happening, and we're able to solve problems. We hear about the different people in our group. Since I've been in the group now for over a year, I've had the opportunity to present a couple of times about my own organization and to learn more about the other people's organizations. When you host, you get to take the opportunity to do that. We've also spent time learning more about each other personally. And there's always a learning opportunity. So there's always a different speaker each month. And we're able to learn different aspects of business or different ways to enhance our skills.
Meetings are really well run. We have an agenda that's laid out and managed by Nancy. And while we have time slots for each agenda item, Nancy really does a great job at managing the day and adjusting the schedule if, let's say, a value added conversation is happening and we happen to go over the time allotted for whatever it was that we're discussing. Nancy will manage and adjust the schedule on the back end to make sure that we're allowed to continue that conversation that is value added for the group, as well as achieving our goals for the day.
The group meetings are focused, topical, useful, always mentally stimulating, And I walk away being inspired about the topics and the discussion points and the workshops that we have during our meetings. And many of the things that we review or that we learn or that we discuss, I find directly applicable in my day-to-day work in my professional life.
I think we always have a speaker, and the speaker brings different things. Nancy picks speakers intentionally to address things that different members of the group might be experiencing or that she's hearing thematically. And so we have speakers who end up being very, very useful and relevant to members of the group.
I think to describe the way the meeting works best, I would say it's a group meeting and a group discussion really built around a specific agenda that Nancy lays out, and then where we sprinkle in very specific topic oriented speakers, and the group just has a real collaborative feel in digesting all of these topics.
The biggest benefits in the one-to-one meetings with my chair, Nancy, have been around invaluable guidance and feedback on how to approach business challenges, and the specific actions that I can take to stay accountable to personal development and growth objectives.
So, unlike any other coaches I've encountered who typically have a direct line to whoever you report to, whether that's, another individual within your organization or the board, Nancy is not connected with anyone that I work with, or anyone who's evaluating my performance as a president of the company. So she's a fantastic resource to bounce ideas off of, share challenges with, obtain advice from, and really holds me accountable in the nicest of ways. She's a vault. I don't have anything, I don't have to worry that anything I share will get back with anyone I work with. Really just great to have another, perspective that's outside of the organization that I'm operating in, to really give me a different perspective, ask me questions, make me think about things differently than maybe I was. And really just giving me a different way to think about things that maybe I haven't encountered in the past.
When my one-to-one meetings with Nancy is that she helps me focus on things I really need to work on. A lot of times that's around relationship issues within the business, whether it's my relationship with others or a problem between other people that I'm trying to improve their interaction skills, and holding me accountable. Also checking in about how I'm doing on personal life things, which is another thing that CEOs and people who are really busy can tend to forget, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So make sure I'm taking care of myself so that I can be more effective in my job and more balanced, and I can impart that same self-care notions onto my employees as well.
The biggest benefits of my one-to-one meetings with Nancy are that they are scheduled in advance and I have them each month. And I know that I can talk to her about a business problem or a personal problem, and she helps me see different sides of those issues, and she holds me accountable. And I also know if there's something that pops up emergently during the month, I have the opportunity to speak to her and just give her a call or a shout out, and she'll make some time.
So the biggest benefit from my one-on-ones with Nancy are the ability to download what's going on in my schedule and how things are happening inside and outside the business. And when I talk through those issues with Nancy, I get a really good perspective on what's happening rather than just thinking about it myself. I get that. You hear it, you talk about it, you get a better perspective, and then giving me clarity on the next chart to course to address all those topics and all those issues.
I would just say it's a great group, and I have learned so much from the people in the group. I feel like I'm part of a community. I knew that I needed to be part of a peer group. I knew that I had peers in the industry, but most of my peers in the industry are also in my industry. So there's a tendency to, not want to talk about what your challenges are unless you know it's a challenge that everybody has, which has to do with maybe customer base or things like that. So being in an environment that is safe to talk about business challenges without giving away something that is proprietary or that could be an issue downstream is one of the best things. Is you can actually have people who understand what your challenges are, you understand what their challenges are, and talking through how you address those challenges. And it's just been a huge thing. I've had to miss a couple of meetings because of super pressing customer things, and it was depressing to miss the meeting. So, I've said it more than once. If there are members who aren't there because they have equally pressing things, it's kind of like, oh, but I so appreciate that person's insights on this thing. I learned something, and so it's become a group that's that is like a family in a sense. It's like an extended family that is there that can help. You can help hold up, and they can help hold you up.
Well, I have to say we have an amazing group, and I urge you to join us and become a part of it because it's making us better leaders.
So if I were talking to somebody who wanted to join the group, I would say if you're looking for perspective and you're looking for accountability and you're looking for people that are willing to ride with you on your business journey and help you with the issues that you face on a daily basis and those challenges, then this Vistage group is perfect for you.
The one thing that I would love to share with potential members is really do not let any concerns around time or cost dissuade you from joining a Vistage group. The personal development that I have experienced pays immeasurable dividends in the future. You are worth it, and it is entirely up to you to sort of include this into your personal life. You will find a way to make the time, and you will find a way to leverage the great feedback and information that you'll receive by being a member.
Ultimately, I would highly recommend Vistage. I would highly recommend Nancy as a one-on-one coach, as well as a chair of our Vistage CEO group.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it piques your interest in learning more about our unique peer advisory group in Greater Boston and how we can assist you in reaching your next level of success. I hope you were able to see that our current group's melting pot of combined wisdom creates a highly dynamic experience. My group and I are searching for a few new members with leadership skills such as openness to sharing ideas, getting feedback, and taking action. We want to make better decisions and accomplish greater results. Thus, we're searching for people who have a growth mindset, both professionally and personally, to join our mastermind group. We are seeking members who wish to embody their beliefs and connect in person with other local chief executives from non-competing sectors. For those looking to increase their excellence, our Vistage group is a game changer. Are you looking to up-level to a better version of yourself and your business? If so, we need to chat. I'm excited to learn about you and your company. Please book a call using the link in the summary section below so that we can explore if we are a good fit for each other. I look forward to our next interaction. Thank you and have a great day.